Hey everyone! Today we're going to use most of our time just to kind of finish working on our patterns and designs in each column or tower. And then we're going to spend lots of time with that Sharpie, tracing over every single line, making sure to go back in and color in some spots of our patterns. Again, this is creating that contrast that we've been looking at this week. But what I went ahead and do to kind of demonstrate the next step is I made a red line of where I need to cut. Because once we're all done tracing everything and filling in our patterns, we need to cut them out. Now I told you by having the columns in the background behind the ones in the front, we should really not have to cut all the way down alongside of one. So, which is why I showed you with this red line. It's just right around the tops of them. Now, if you're noticing that you have a spot where you have to cut all the way down a column, you could do two things. You could either draw another column in between them quick, or just remember after you cut, like let's say if I was cutting between these two, just keep a close eye on both pieces so you don't lose them. And then when you glue them onto our background, we'll want to put them back together. Okay, so it's perfectly fine if that does happen, but just make sure you don't lose the piece. Now, real quick, just want to show you a couple of the reminders of cutting. I drew this red line because we don't want to cut on the actual black line that we outline, because then a lot of our towers are going to not stand out as much. It's having that black line that's going to really make them pop when they get on our colorful background. So I really want to just cut right above it, but get as close as I can. I really don't want to have a little white spot either, because that will show up when it's on the colorful background. Now, it seems pretty straightforward to cut, but I want to just remind you guys, I'm now into a spot here where it's a little tricky to go around all this. Instead of trying to keep bending it all around, I'm going to just cut away some of the larger pieces first. So I'll just go right up to this one now and come back to that little area. And what I like to do a lot of times is kind of bend and turn my paper as I cut. So I kind of keep my scissors still, but see how I'm just kind of rotating my scissors and my paper? For me, that just makes it a little bit easier. Again, I can tell this is going to be a tricky spot in here, so I'm going to just go kind of around it for right now. And the good thing is we are gluing these down to a background tomorrow, so if you do accidentally cut off a piece, just hold on to it and we'll glue it back where it's supposed to go. Now, you won't be tracing it with marker first, so you won't see any of that showing. But so far, I just cut around that big area. Now I'm going to come back in and go a little bit slower to take care of these parts. So a lot of times, too, I'll rotate my picture. Now I can just very carefully cut. And I like to rotate my scissors as I do this. For some of us, this might take a while because we have such detailed towers. Look at that, I almost am done with this tricky part here. And then I'll come back to this side. And there we go. Pull it right out like that. Now, if you see any little white spots, or for me, if I see any colored spots still showing, I just want to make sure I try my best to get in there and get rid of those. Yeah. Now, let's do one more spot here. Here's a spot where my cross, it's upside down right now, my cross is touching my other column. There, now you can see it easier. So I'm not going to try and poke my scissors into this little space to cut that out. Instead, I'm going to just cut right along the line where the cross meets this next tower and then get down in there. Because again, when I glue it back on, it will still look like that cross is touching the tower. I just need to be careful because this cross is really skinny, but right here you can see I'm just cutting right on that cross down into the bottom there. And then I'm going to carefully cut this way. Slide my scissors underneath that cross. and then pull it out. So there you go. Now you can see I got it, that part cut out. So you can definitely tell it's going to take a little bit more time than just a simple cut out, but I think it will be worth it in the end. And then this is kind of the point where I'd want you to stop. Once you finish cutting out the rest of your towers, flip it over, put your name and 5K on the back, and then you can set it on the pile on the back counter, and then work in your packets for the remainder of the time. All right, thanks. Have fun, guys.